Thank you for tuning in to the Real Tea with T3. I'm your host, Teja Harris, and I'm the team leader of Texas Trio Team. I'm really excited about today's guest. He's very special here in Washington County. So, who are you and what keeps you busy these days?
I'm Jeff Millikin with Texas Farm Credit, and thank you for calling me special. See, that's pretty awesome. I am a business development manager at Texas Farm Credit. So what keeps me busy basically is trying to help our salespeople do better. At sales, we do a lot of big events, some small events. Just really trying to help them get in front of new relationships and get those established. But so
And so you guys have a beautiful office that's located off Highway 290. And so do you have any issues with people coming in thinking that you're an actual another business or a bank?
we do get a lot of walk-ins for bank. Not a whole lot, but we get significant walk-ins for bank. Some people just stop by wanting to take pictures because our
Yeah.
landscaping is so nice, and then when those roses bloom, we get a lot of drop-ins for picture taking.
Yeah. So let's dive into like who you are and like what got you to where you are today. So at one point you weren't in charge of like handling all the training and doing all that for building up your stuff. So tell us kind of your story of what got you into being at Texas Farm Credit.
Okay, all right. So out of college, I was a wildlife biologist, right? So I started with the Florida Fish and Wildlife Service in Florida, working with ducks. Ducks are my favorite, so I flew to Florida to chase ducks around on airboats and helicopters, and just got tired of working for the state. The state jobs are kind of the less you do, the better off you are. And I just, as being a go getter, it's hard to do that. So moved to the mortgage business just because it was one of the things you could get into without a whole lot of educational background. So I moved over to residential mortgage, another bottom fell in the market in Florida. So gave me a good reason to get back to Texas. So got back here and was in the mortgage business, residential mortgage for, another 10 years. And then met the folks at Texas Farm Credit just at a sporting clay shoot. And I asked them, I was like, what do y'all do? And they told me, and they needed a lot of help on their mortgage side. So I joined up. They offered me a job. I moved out to Brenham, which was an easy sell coming from the suburbs of Houston. And was on that team for another 7 years until we moved over to this business development. We started a business development department. So it's kind of a new thing for Texas Farm Credit, or Farm Credit in general. So it's pretty exciting. So that's how I got here.
Yeah, for sure. And so what is the difference from like just a typical mortgage broker versus what you guys are doing?
It's really products, right? So we have our portfolio products where we offer rural lending. So there's no real property too small. There's no real property too big. So we do a lot of gigantic real properties as well as small lots. So Farm Credit's a very old, 110-year-old system that's nationwide. It was created to help rural people, rural residents buy homes, start farms, maintain farms. So really on the consumer purpose side, which I was on, we deal more with homes, recreational land, or lots that you're going to build on in the future. So it's really just the product we're selling in general is a farm credit product. So it's just a totally different product.
Yeah, and so you relocating from Houston being in like the suburban kind of setting and then coming out into Washington County, yes, you had like the agricultural part that you knew from like your history and your background, but what makes it so different for the average consumer that's thinking, I'm going to move out of the city and I'm going to move into a rural setting?
Well, I think the surprise for people is how much there is to do out here, right? Everyone I talked to that lived in Houston, like, what do you do? Are you bored? I'm like, no, there's something every weekend in these small towns. If it's not Brenham, it's Round Top or Chapel Hill or Belleville, or go either direction, any direction you want to, you can find something to do. So I think the common misconception, well, there's a couple, but is that there's not much to do, and not much for the kids to do because it's a very kid friendly area. I think the other thing we run into is people think it's going to be really hard to buy land, right? They're really worried about the land loan process and how much they need to put down and how long the process is if they qualify, which is actually easier than buying a home in most parts. In most cases, unless you're buying,
Mhm.
a working farm, then it can be a little more.
Right. And so one of the things that they may not understand is exemptions. and what that offers to them, going from just maybe a homestead exemption or maybe their investment properties and their exemptions. So, what can you kind of dive into that since that's something a product that you probably work with every day?
Yeah, for sure. That actually hit us when we came out here, right? My wife and I moved out here, and we were looking at properties with existing homes on them, and we'd see the price points on these homes on 30 acres, and be like, "There's no way, what the taxes on here are going to kill us," And so we'd look at the taxes, and like, wait, the taxes on here are less than our house in Katy was, or much less. It's because of the tax exemptions on all the acreage except one, right? So generally what the county does is they'll, if you have a house on 30 acres, right? I'm sure you know this, but if they have a house on 30 acres, the county will come in. You don't have to split the property up. You don't do anything yourself. The county will count 1 acre in the house as a homestead exemption. The rest of the property, if it has an ag exemption, will be under the agricultural exemption. So it'll get that ag value, which is generally almost zero. So we started looking, realized we could afford movement, and decided to buy acreage and build. But we bought some really nice acreage, and our taxes were $19 a year on that property until we built the house. Now we paid taxes on the house and an acre, and then the rest of it is $18 a year.
Right. And so if you do, like, if you're probably dealing with people that are wanting to have livestock, you know, do hay, maybe timber exemptions, things like that. So are you maybe guiding people like on how to do those additional things beyond just the real estate? Or are most people that you're working with coming from like, no, I have a farm over here and I'm going to do an additional over here?
I'd say the vast majority are buying their first piece of property, right? So a lot of them are coming out of Houston. They've always dreamed about living in the country. So they call us to look at a country property, right? So they really don't have any idea what they're doing. A lot of them don't like it once they get here, right? But most of them do. So basically, we do guide them. There's a lot of resources that are really great. The extension service, the extension agents in every county do a really great job. It's their one job is to help people do these things, and every county is different. So it's really we cover 101 counties in Texas. So we really try to get them to the experts a lot of times. But yes, we also do give advice. Because a lot of people have big dreams of running a longhorn range on their 10 acres when actuality you probably can't support one longhorn on 10 acres, right? So we do probably crush a lot of dreams, but I think we make even more dreams come true with the actual acreage purchase.
That's so true. And so, not only are you dealing with, exemptions and homesteads and like maybe new construction on a regular basis, but also you may be dealing with minerals. So, can we dive into that and how that impacts someone's loan if they're wanting to buy out in a rural area?
Well, it doesn't really affect a loan, but basically, when you go to buy a property, that seller can sell you any percentage of the minerals they own, and some don't even know what they own, right? Sometimes the title companies, you have to go back generations to find, what percentage of the minerals that owner actually has. And so once they do find that out, that owner can sell you whatever percentage they want to. It doesn't affect the price. It doesn't really affect the appraised value, which can be a little wild sometimes because obviously you would think that a property with full mineral rights would be more expensive than a property with no mineral rights. But it doesn't really affect the appraised value a whole lot. So that can get tricky. And leases are another big deal, right? I mean, a lot of these properties have leases on them, and a lot of those leases give up surface rights, right? And they can come put a well on your property if you like it or not. If you buy a property that has a mineral rights or has a lease on it,
Mhm.
rights are that's complicated, and that's per individual lease too. So that's something that title company would even want them to look into, or even an attorney.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I mean, are you coming across like people that are coming out here and then, like you said, they had this big dream and what they thought it was going to be. And so, whenever they actually get out here, are you seeing that they're giving the feedback that it's a lot more work than they originally thought it was?
Sometimes we've had some pretty funny stories. People like buy a place out here, and then 2 weeks later realize that they can hear a road, and like, wait, we can hear a road. What do we do about that? It's like earmuffs. I don't know what you know about a road, but yeah, it does take a lot of work, and it takes a lot of money too. So we do kind of advise people when we're talking to them about the loan is, don't spend all your money on the down payment if you don't have to, because getting that property where you want it is going to be expensive, and that's something we can do. We can roll in improvements into our loans. So if someone wants to buy a property at a pond, at a barn, plant trees, do almost any of that stuff, we can roll that into the loan to maybe save some cash for for other improvements that maybe we can't finance.
Right. And then like, do you have resources where they can like maybe add in like maybe not on your lending, but also like just the resources within various counties that you work with where they can maybe roll in their lending for tractors or, shredders or any of that type of additional skid steers. I'm just trying to think of random things that you can
Right.
help
Yeah.
them with that.
Yeah, we can lead them in the right direction. We can lend on those things. It generally has to be a full-time farmer, right? So if it's a full-time operating farmer, we can do we can get really creative on financing, but we don't see a whole lot of those new around here. There are some very big ones around here, but a lot of the ones that we see are kind of part-time farmers that do generate a little bit of ag activity and an ag income, but aren't full-time farmers. They have another stream of income, so they don't really qualify for a lot of the full-time farming loans.
Yeah. And so, I mean, not only are you like getting into like whether you're relocating or you're an established farmer, I love Washington County that there's so many resources as far as like FFA or 4-H or other things. So do you have, I'm sure those are people that you're networking with. So, do you have any insights as to how that's beneficial as if you're wanting to relocate into a rural area?
Yeah, I mean, there's the resources are fantastic. Those the FFA, 4-H are generally kid related stuff. But yeah, if your kids are into that, that's one of the main reasons to move up here. I think because your kids can grow up with the animals and responsibility it takes to raise animals. It's a tremendous life lesson just raising animals. But the extension service, the appraisal district here, I mean, it's just different. You can walk into the appraisal district here, ask them what you need to do. They'll tell you exactly what you need to do to keep your ag exemption, because when you buy that property, that ag exemption does come with it, but you have to maintain it.
Hmm.
Right. So if you have cows, you can switch from cow. If the property historically had cattle, you can switch to hay. You can switch to bees. You can switch to wildlife. You can't go straight to wildlife with no exemption. You can do wildlife, which is a pretty great deal. We have a lot of people do their wildlife exemptions around here.
Yeah, I mean, like we had to switch everything over from hay over to wildlife just because of like drought conditions and things like that. So I mean, if you like are wanting to get into that type of lifestyle, like you need to be aware of what options are available to you so it like helps save you money. I mean, that's what we want for our consumers and our clients, right?
Right, right, and that's something we see quite a bit too when people come out here and want to buy 20 acres in a house. Right. Well, that 20 acres in the house needs to be on a farm and range contract, right? So a lot of times you'll see those written up. We get offers from in town inner city agents that are on the 1 to 4 contract, and if it just doesn't address those things, right, and that loan may not be made for that property. So if that property has potential for ag income or any ag exemptions, there may be issues down the road in financing. So that is something that needs to be addressed up front. If it's any ag on that property at all, that needs to be on the farm and ranch contract because that does cover those things.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I was leaning with. Yeah.
So yeah, that's we do try to get out in front of that. What they're going to do, is it realistic? Once again, don't want to crush dreams on these things because the dreams are real, right? People dream about this their whole lives, and I think that's one great thing that we got out of COVID is that people realized they could work remotely. Maybe move out here before you retire. Move out here. It's not bad. It's really great. It's great for the kids. There's a lot of kids. But that's something I think came out of COVID that was really great is that people realized they could get out of the big cities a little earlier.
So you were saying, like, speaking about like you've got the inner city agents that are doing like this type of contract. I mean, like, if that kind of agent was watching this right now, like, what insights or feedback would you give them as far as if they're going to practice doing farm and ranch real estate?
Well, I would say try to get into some CE classes, maybe with some really good CE teachers. There are some great ones out there that AgriLife does some great stuff. The Extension Service. Maybe work on your first few deals with a experienced agent in a rural area because it is a lot different. We see a lot of problems come up from the lack of experience, right?
Mhm.
You know, I have some agents from in town that call me to buy property and they ask me for advice, and I generally tell them to find an agent and maybe you can get a referral fee, right? I mean, it's just a lot, right? You don't want to mess it up. The stuff that you mess up can be very, very expensive in the long run.
Yeah. And so, can you maybe walk us through your favorite experience that you've ever had whenever you've done a transaction with somebody, and then at the end of the day, it was like, this is why I do this, and it may happen more than once, I'm sure.
It really does. And that's one thing coming from the residential big city to the country is that people are not moving for necessity, really. I think in town, a lot of the home purchases are made because they have to, right? They got a new job, they move towns, they have a bigger family, they have to buy a house. I feel like out here, a lot of people are moving here because they really want to. They've dreamed of it for their whole lives. So it's really, I think people are happier. They're always happy. Buying a house is extremely exciting no matter what, generally. But
Generally.
there's no rules, right? And so, gosh, just individually wise, man, there are a lot of people that are super happy about it. But there was one family from in town that here, and they were telling me that it was around Halloween, right? And they bought this old house that they were going to fix up. And they get out, we're in closing, the kids are there, right? The husband's not there, but the wife and the kids are there. And they're signing when the kid was telling me how they scared their dad that morning by putting a fake spider on his roll of toilet paper. And I'm just thinking to myself, I'm like, just wait till he gets to this house out on 50 acres in the middle of nowhere. The spiders are the least of his concern, right? So it was pretty, it was that just it's in my memory that like I could see the kid saying it, right? Because it just cracked me up so much. And this guy was in for a treat.
Yeah, I mean, he's in for the scorpions and the snakes and all the exciting things that we have to offer out here.
So, are there snakes around this property? I'm like, there, yeah, there are. There definitely are. They're not going to get you. They're not going to chase you down, right? They're there, but it's funny that people just no, not in this part of county. There's no snakes, right?
They vacated that a long time ago.
Right.
They evicted them out.
It's way too cold.
So, talking about that into from your role of going from and being in the ag industry and then you're on like the business side of things, I'm curious like how your role has shifted you as a person now that you're in business development. Like, are you seeing things differently than you did maybe a couple years ago?
You know, I guess a little bit. Not I have a lot more free time on the weekends and nights. That's for sure, which has helped me. But I do have some small children too, so that helps a lot. But it is a bigger, longer game, right? Which I focused on when I was in lending too. Is it's never about the one transaction, right? It's about relationships and establishing those relationships, and it's hard to do when you're a producing agent or a loan officer, right? It's hard to get in front of new people and follow up with new people. Follow up is tough, right? Follow up is really, really hard. So I think that that's one thing that I've really like got in my focus now is how do I help our employees follow up with these new relationships they meet. It's great to get in front of people, but if you don't follow up,
Yeah.
it's useless.
And I mean, that's actually a statistic that, like for realtors or I'm sure just business owners, is it like you work so hard and you can spend time and so much money into like lead generation. But once they actually call or once they actually connect, the follow up is where the disconnect happens every single time. So, as a leader, like for your team and for your group, like what are you finding is like the most received, like so they get that message?
Well, yeah, it's challenging. It really is because we have a lot of really really successful tenured people that don't do any follow up. I feel like they could do much more. So it's literally even as simple as giving a list of people who attended your events, right? Let's then we put them in. We have a CRM we run through Salesforce. It's
Hmm.
pretty powerful, so we're really trying to get that in where we take some of that off their plate. Because honestly, I feel like a lot of salespeople get so wrapped up in the day to day that they're not going to do it. I mean, it's just that simple. It'd be great if they did. We have a system now that can help them do that because I just don't know that any of them would ever do it on their own. I don't think they're against it necessarily. It's just not what they do.
Right.
And now I think it's even more prevalent on the ag side, right? Because these people are going to be out there working with farmers because, you know, the residential mortgage side is really transactional, right? Yeah, you have relationships, which is very important. But when you go on our ag side, it's generational, right? We do loans for people's grandkids often. It's not a one time. We service a loan. If they miss a payment, we call them. If they have to foreclose, we have to call them and tell them they're foreclosing, right? So it's a lot more personal. So they're really into their relationships and doing the farm stuff than they are the getting in the weeds on the lead generation.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, like, is that something I know that, like, on the residential side or just if you're dealing with a typical mortgage broker or banker is, like, as soon as you close on a loan, like, somebody else has bought it, so but it sounds to me like you guys are, like, you're in the weeds with your clients all the way through.
Yes, yes. So even on our consumer purpose side, so we do partner on consumer purpose loans, which are the home loans, construction loans, and lot loans with another farm credit. And they'll actually do the servicing, but they don't sell. No farm credit sells their loans, right? So, like I said, farm credit is a really wild system, really kind of antiquated in some ways, but really great for the real properties. But so we service them all. They actually sell bonds, the Farm Credit Administration in Washington D.C. So we go all the way up there. So we're governed by our own administration. So it's really pretty unique. If you ever not sleeping and want a good night rest, just look up the Farm Credit website and take a good read. But yes, we having those portfolio programs where they are something that we service. We make the good calls and the bad calls. We celebrate when they pay them off. We lose some money at that point, but
Yeah.
it's a great relationship, and it's all about long term relationships.
Yeah, and so, I mean, like, whenever you're like, say someone's watching, they're like, "Hey, I've been considering this my whole life. I want to go do this." Is the criteria as far as like what kind of candidate like that you guys will intake, is that very different than what they might be looking at online?
As far as what there as some potential buyers,
Yeah, yeah.
no, it's very similar. As far as what we look at as qualification wise, it's really similar, and we can actually add some different stuff. So let's say if you're buying a property with horses, with horse facilities, we can actually count potential income from those horse facilities in the loan. If you're buying ag land, we can look at that potential income too. So it's similar as we look at credit, we look at debt, we look at income. We call stuff different names, and we look at some different ratios, but it's pretty similar.
And so I know we kind of covered it earlier, but I want to ask, like, just because you are dealing with like people that might have livestock or, want to do any sort of production, is that something that you guys can lend on to beyond like the machinery and things like that?
Oh yeah, yeah. We have some really big loans that are in operating loans. So actually, Kevin in our office here in town, he kind of specializes in that, and we call them operating loans. So yeah, they can get that money and basically buy anything they need to keep their farm going. I mean, they can buy an airplane, they could buy cows, but yeah, we have a lot of people that have these rotating loans where they just buy cows, get them big, sell them, and buy more. So it's a rolling loan that they have for many years.
That's cool. That's really cool. And I mean, like, I'm curious on your feedback as to like, I mean, farming and agricultural, like, I mean, that's just something that's really rich in Texas. Like, and people love doing that. And it is like generational. It's not just, you're coming from inner city. Like, it's like multi-generational like family members that are doing that, and I'm curious, like, are you seeing like as the years go by that that's staying the same, or are you seeing that as kind of like something that's going to be of the past before we know it?
Well, I feel like there's been a little rebirth. I feel like there's a lot of small producers now, in general. And I think there's a lot of land that's going to go from baby boomers to be sold probably because a lot of the grandkids don't want to do it. But I do feel like there are a lot of smaller local producers now. I mean, I think that if you walk into a meat market around here or any small town, you're going to see local beef for sale, which you didn't 10 years ago. Really, it's that's a much more popular thing. There's a lot of grass fed smaller farmers that are selling local produce, which is great. So I think that has expanded. But as far as actual full time farmers, I think that it's probably decreased. The bigger farms are becoming more prevalent. There's some giant, corporate farms that are taking up a lot of
Mhm.
the farming.
And I mean, and you may correct me, but there's a website that, like, I remember when COVID happened, like, I was just one of those people that I was not going to sit in my house and, boohoo about it. There's a website and it's called localharvest.org, I think is what it is. Have you ever heard of it? So I'm pretty sure that's what it is, or maybe, but you can type in your zip code and then it will show you all the local farmers that have like grass fed beef or fresh fruits and vegetables, eggs, like people that you can barter and trade with as far as like, You may have goats, but you want to trade that for, maybe some livestock, something like that. So it was really cool that you could find like local CSAs where you could go buy organic or farm raised vegetables and stuff like that. So that's what I would do with my kids is we'd put in the zip code and like within like a 45-mile radius, we would go and like you could go to orchards and stuff like that too.
That's
And that's
cool.
what we would do. Like, 'cause
Absolutely.
yeah, I mean, like there's so many I love that Texas has so many resources, like for people that maybe don't want to go to the grocery store to get all their produce and things like that because of like, I mean, it's one of the big topics these days is like, what is really in our food?
It's pretty wild. You hear about some of these things that Kennedy's talking about. Even the
Mhm.
oranges are colored, right? It's bad coloring that they put in oranges, so
I know.
it really makes a lot of sense, and it's great. I mean, the food is better, the food's fresher. There's no doubt that a peach off the tree tastes better than a peach off of in the grocery store, right? They're just fresh. They're just ripe.
Yeah.
No, I love that. I have not checked that out, but I will because I do love that, and I think that's one thing that is really the kind of micro producers, that are out there that growing, a little bit and selling them locally at farmers markets or
Mhm.
local markets is more popular now than it's ever been.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean,
Pretty long.
there's a few places that you could even like. There's one in Plantersville where you can go pick your own strawberries, or there's some you can pick your own peaches and stuff like that. And then you go home and like you make the strawberry and peach jam. Like those are the things that they're so valuable when I was like growing up with my grandparents. And like it's like we have to do our part and teach our kids these things, like because worst case scenario, if something bad happens, like you can be self sufficient.
Yeah, or just know how the world works and how nature works. It's like you go to big cities in the morning and milk news because kids don't know where cows come from.
Yeah.
It's yeah, they don't know where milk comes from. Where cows? What are you doing? That's a whole nother lesson there. We won't get into that. It is great. We went on a vacation up to Idaho and Washington. I think the funnest part of it was my kids got to go. We went to a peach orchard and picked big peaches, and they were so happy running around, picking them, eating them off the trees. It was not only playing every holiday around some sort of ag, every trip around some sort of ag activity, right? Because they had so much fun.
And now I've taught you that website, so they're gonna love it. That I taught you.
Yeah, just road trips. Yeah, we're not on the lake. We're going to.
So, like, do you have memories? Like, I mean, one of my favorite pictures from that time in 2020 when we were doing that was like there was a place you could go get your own fresh green beans, and I literally have a picture of my kids sitting on the back porch snapping green beans, and they looked very disgusted, but it was really hot. But that's just part of it. So, do you have any memories like that of like part of what made you who you are today, like with your family?
Yeah, my family's from South Texas, so my parents are from small towns right next to each other, south of San Antonio, and one was a farmer and one had a ranch historically, but had sold it when I was little. But they both had huge gardens, and so we spent a lot of time out picking gardens, picking watermelons, driving tractors around, but snapping little peas was part of that for sure, and it was exhausting. It was mind numbing, is what it is.
Your face looked like my kids.
Yeah, oh my gosh, but it was a it's looking back on it, it's fantastic, right? And I wouldn't do it any other way, but I do have a lot of memories of being out in the gardens with my grandparents.
Yeah, and that's probably a lot of the reason you do what you do today and how you like helping people. Like.
Yeah, yeah, it really is. I think that's one thing about this job, working for something you love, right? It's easy to sell something you love, right? And it's moving from the big city, to the small town was life changing. I mean, I literally walk on my back porch to grill dinner on my back porch, and that seems fake. Like, this doesn't even seem real, right? Just looking over the countryside and
No, I know it.
horses are walking around in the back. It's like this is not even
I know.
believable.
I know. And then, like you said, is like whenever you can go home at the end of the day and like you don't see the cars, you don't hear the traffic going on. And it's like growing and it's busy and things like that. But just like if you have that piece of solitude and to like just kind of check out and just focus on what matters most, like it's not just constantly inundated with information and um, you know, the hustle and bustle gets a mute button every once in a while.
Yeah. Yeah. And like we talked about earlier, it's work, right? People come on here and surprised about how much work it is to keep up 20 acres.
Yeah.
But man, it's great work, right? You're working on your own property for something you love, and if you get horses and you don't like them, you can sell them, and that's when you do like them, there's nothing more rewarding than going out there and feeding the horses every night. My wife does that. So it's really rewarding for me. But it's just a different kind of work, right?
Yeah.
It's like that. It's almost to me like doing something that's a hobby. I love to fish, and when you fish, your mind's just on fishing. And when you're out there working on, building fence or weeding, whatever it is you probably you love so much, it's almost like a it's almost like doing a hobby.
Yeah. And I mean that like if you've got bees or whatever it is that you're producing at your place, is just like once it actually happens, it's like, wow, I actually did that, like
Yeah,
it's
it is.
super
It
fun.
is. It is. Now, some of the fences we built have been a little questionable, but definitely,
My neighbors
definitely.
fixing stuff.
But
Yeah.
it is a great feeling when you do accomplish that. 'Cause
That that is so true. And I want to dive into I've had some people on that, that are in the real estate industry, but they're in like different fields. They're not realtors, but they're on the title side. And I've heard from one of them, like that was really impactful to me is like, when they see the file come in, they have no idea about it. Like they know nothing about it. It's literally just kind of like a story, like written down. And of course, you could go online and look at it. But I want to ask you, like on the lending side of things, like how does that feel for you? Like, what does that look like on your end of things? Whenever you're looking at what a person is purchasing.
we get deep into the story, right? We are all about the story, so we literally write a story in our loan file. So our loan files aren't numbers necessarily; there are some numbers, but we literally write a paragraphs about people, what their plans are, what their experiences are. It's literally a biography. I said literally like 6 times right there, but it is.
But it literally was that.
It's spooky. And it's great, right? Because you know what these people are wanting to do. These customers are wanting to do, and you can help them get there. So it's a lot more in depth, because we have to. It's not even an option. Right?
Mhm.
We have to do this on every file. So it's really really great in that sense that you do get to know what their goals are and what they're looking to do, because that makes a big difference on these loans. Because we have everything from a loan that changes interest rates every month to one that's fixed for 30 years, right? So what's going to be the best? Sometimes it's not a fixed 30-year, a 30-year fixed. On the ag side, we can do annual payments, right? So they can make a payment once a year.
Mm.
For some people, that's great. For some, it's terrible, So if we find
Well,
out
no
what their
payments
needs
on
are
what?
on their loan,
Oh,
their interest
wow.
and principal payments are due once a year.
Wow.
So it's really made for farmers, right? Because when they have the harvest,
No
they
pressure.
have all the money. Yeah. But we also do insurance. So we do
Mhm.
insurance, which is federally backed, but we do insurance on crops and livestock and drought.
Okay. Okay. So there are options. And so can you tell us about what has been the most wildest story that you've come across? I mean, in the decades you've been doing this, I mean, I'm sure there's plenty, but is there any that would like make the top three of like, holy cow?
Yeah, we had I probably shouldn't say any names here, but I had one that called looking for buying a place in some acreage around here, right? So I worked with them for a while, got them qualified, looked like a strong buyer, and got them with an agent. They found a place that fell through. They ended up buying a larger property, not in this town. So they were working with their farm and ranch guys. And the day before closing, the SEC arrested them for a Ponzi scheme. So this was like a 2 year process getting to this point. And it was like a $3 million property. And the day before closing, he got arrested for a Ponzi scheme in Florida, like taking advantage of old people. He seemed like a great guy. Everything on paper was great. And so it was pretty wild. We've had other people arrested, but not for something quite that crazy.
Yeah. So I mean, so you're the seller of that and everything probably lost out on all that.
Yeah, yeah, that was probably set them back a little bit, but at least I didn't buy it.
No
Then,
kidding. No kidding.
I don't know how that would have worked out for us. It probably wouldn't have been good.
Yeah. And so, whenever you're working on like the story with your clients, like, I'm sure it's so rewarding at the end of the day. But it also is a lot of hard work. So, I mean, the people that like, I think during transactions that sometimes the consumer or the client like blame the realtor or blame the lender or blame title, along the way. So, can you express like, kind of like how you feel about that from your side of the thing, like, or on your side of the table of how that feels.
It is a extremely emotional process, right? I mean, buying a house, building a house, and we building a house is hard. They're talking. We don't get into the emotions involved with the construction, right? But it's so emotional. It's such a big deal for your family to buy it that like you understand, that these there are going to be emotions involved, right? Which on land, it's less emotional. We start dealing with houses, and we do a lot of home loans. We do a lot of construction loans. It does get, and I understand it, and I really think that as a professional, we really have to set expectations, right? I know that's a big talking point when you're telling people how to do business, but it's might be the most important thing.
Oh my gosh, yeah, and I mean, as a leader, I mean, that's one of the things that I tell, like, or that I a quote that I go back to all the time, whether it be for clients, like as leadership or whatever that looks like, is conflict arises when expectations differ. Like because everybody sees their side of the story.
Oh yeah, I've got a loan officer, fantastic. She's really great. She came from the residential side, was used to just the 24/7 on call. She first month in, she gets some difficult buyer, pre-calls him over the weekend, doesn't call him back, and works on Saturday and Sunday, doesn't get him the letter until like noon, or doesn't follow up with them until noon on Monday. They go home and leave a 1-star review, say how terrible she is. It's like you set you kind of set an expectation that was unreal by being on call on the weekends. You know, on our side's a little different, right? We Not a lot can happen for the weekends on us, right? We have to, a lot of times, everything's so unique on our side. We really need to get, especially with complicated deals, right? We got to
Mhm.
go with the underwriter, check with the underwriter, see if it's something that because we see some stuff that's really unique. So she had set the expectation in the reverse, right? She worked too good. I've seen a lot of people that say I'm on call. I'm your on call lender. You better be their on call lender, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
now you said it, and if you back it out now, they're gonna bring it up. It's like,
100%, 100%. And the same goes for like realtors. As I mean, like if you're just saying that I'm available all the time, I call it like a Pop Tart agent. Like, yeah, I'm available. And that one time you're not, like you could ruin your reputation, your brand, everything that you've worked so hard for. So it's important to just establish like, hey, you're going to hear from me every Friday or whatever day it's going to be. So your clients know to be on the lookout. I think that's just good for any business practice.
oh, for sure, yeah. Only if I can't answer, I'll call you back, right? I'm gonna get back with you, but I'm busy too, right?
Mhm.
And I actually tell people moving out here, which is a great thing about the rural life. I'm like, you're moving out here because it's so great. The way of life's awesome. It's a little bit slower. You're not always in a rush. So did everyone else, right? So did that person you're calling for insurance, or that person you're calling for whatever it might be, construction. They moved out here for a reason too. So just don't expect the calls to pour in the second you do it. They're going to get back with you, but just be a little patient. And I
Yeah.
think that's something that shocks some people initially when they move.
100%, 100%. And so now that you're doing the business development side, like what are some things like it's a new thing for your company but what kind of what are you implementing into like this type of role for yourself and for your clients and for just realtors overall?
So really, what I'm mainly working on is with our employees at this time. I do a little bit of almost, I'd say it's probably 75% working on stuff for in-house stuff, and then 25%, trying to establish new relationships. Right? We have such a unique loan that it's really, I don't want to say not hard, but it's pretty easy to get in front of people, right?
Mhm.
Because we do have a lot loan that's hard to beat, and there's a lot of lots for sale, right? So it's an easy foot in the door. But I really, as far as what I'm implementing, I just really want them to actually take notes of where these leads come from, right? And just hammer the fact that it's not about the deal, right? I see so many deals where there's no record of where the deal came from, either realtor, no builder, like because this is what it's all about. Yes, you want to close this loan, right? You love these people, you want to do it. The long term, you want the next 10 deals.
Mhm.
The next 20, you want the next 5 years of deals. You do want them deals. It's very, I don't dump how important that is, but you got to get those next 10 deals, right? That's how you're going to do better. You can flow through doing what you're doing now, but you want to be better, right? And help the company and help yourself out.
What's so funny is if you look on the board, that was it say on that board?
But yeah, the next 10 list. Yeah, that's for sure. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you as a business owner don't know where your, money's coming from, like in the next 30, 60, 90 days. Like, what are we doing? And so it's really important, like you said, also to pay attention to where is my business coming from? Is it coming from our online, activity? Is it coming from the events we do? Is it coming from open houses? Where is it coming from? Because, you know, the ad dollars that you're putting out there, like, is it well spent? You know what I mean?
Yeah, oh, yeah, and we spend a lot of money. We don't do a whole lot of ads, but we do a lot of events. Right? We spend a lot of money on big events, and we have to track it, right? There's some stories of you know not even collecting a business card from this event. We spend $50,000 on.
Mhm.
We don't have one contact from your event. We spend,
Mhm.
and not all of that, right? Some point in our world, you do need to be there. We do need to, be
Mhm.
part of it and show our support for the farmers and stuff like that.
Sure.
So it's not just getting business for us, but it is part of it.
Absolutely. And so, just, being a leader for your folks, like, I mean, do you struggle with like holding them accountable to like maybe what their plans are or their business plans or just their personal plans? Like how are you doing that to not come off too bossy, but also like to get the job done?
And that's kind of that's a great question because it is kind of a weird situation that we're in. That I'm the only one in the business development department, right? So all of our loan officers, all of our just like agents, they're all salespeople, right? So I can coach them if they want it. I can help them out. I can help them, get relationships, get in front of people, but I really don't have a lot of authority.
Right.
And I'm the only one doing business development, which is great because I'm employee of the year every year, which is nice. But I don't really, I can't hold them to the fire necessarily, right? I mean, obviously, their bosses aren't going to be super happy if they're not trying, if they're struggling and they're not trying. But there's not a whole lot I can do except just keep bringing it up.
Right. And then what about like morale? Like, I mean, you see each other every day, 5 days a week, probably, or multiple days out of the week. And so, like, people, like, how do you keep the morale up and like for yourself and for the people that you work with?
So we actually are very spread out, right? So we have the Brennan branch, but we have 30 branches in Texas, right? So we go all the way from Arkansas, Oklahoma borders all the way down to Mexico, right? So we have a really all of East Texas, all of South Texas, and then kind of through here it gets a little bit skinny. Our territory does, but really just bringing new ideas, right? If you can keep them thinking about, I'll see a deal they're working on, so I'll call them and talk about, where the deal came from. Let's do something for them. Let's do an event. Let's try to get in front of their office. That this is the first deal we've done with this office. Let's use this as a opener to get in the office and get in front of everybody else. So just really just trying to bring some fresh, not even fresh ideas. Right, these are old ideas, right? It's just bringing them up, right? Because they're on to the next deal or they're working on another deal, so they don't have time to really think about it. So it's really just helping them do what they want to do anyway, right? And when I first started, I went and met with a bunch of our branches, all over the state, and I'm like, man, I've wanted to do this for like 5 years, and then every time we get the email talking about it, we look up and it's already over, and we start thinking about next year, and we haven't done it. I'm like, let's do it. Copy me on the email. Let's roll. And so, done a couple, and then we've got some big ones coming up. So it's really something that I think keeps them excited because it helps them do things that they've been wanting to do, just hadn't been top of mind.
Absolutely. And so, I mean, I mean, I know before you came here, you were doing like a farm and ranch class for realtors. And so, I mean, is that something that you're implementing into your monthly scheduling as to like giving back to realtors? And so they could be in they could be in the front lines with you versus, in the back and not knowing what's going on.
Oh, for sure. Especially when you're doing something unique, right? It's different. I mean, it's a different industry, right? The residential home sales is different than farm and ranch sales, right? You can do both, but it is very different. So you need to know it. So I think the more agents know, the more they can take care of their borrowers. I mean, they're doing their borrowers a big favor by making sure that they're fine, not necessarily us, but making sure their financing is right on this property they're buying, right? Because you call any lender just about, they're going to tell you, yes, we can do it. Because market's a little slower than it was a few years ago. So people might try to force a square peg into a round hole,
Hmm.
but the more these agents know, the more they can help guide these deals wherever they need to go. It may be at a small bank that has some a short term loan that might be what they need, or maybe to farm credit where they can, finance longer term. So it is very, very important for us to do that. And that's one thing I really started was CE classes all over our territory wide, just because we just the better prepared the realtors are, the better it is for us.
Mhm.
Right? We get better we get better packages, and the borrowers are happier, and that's what it boils down to. That's how relationships are maintained, right there.
100%. And so, like, do you have any upcoming classes that you're, like, offering, or where can someone find the information if they're interested in maybe learning some more?
Yeah, so that's a little tough. We do have some upcoming classes. There's actually a really great class coming up in College Station that the AgriLife is putting on called "Owning Your Piece of Texas." It's in October. We are actually not sponsoring it right now. We might be a small sponsor on that, but it's something they put on, and it's 7 hours of CE class for realtors. But it's going to be like a must attend if you deal with real properties. It's going to be pretty awesome. Their head council's putting it on. They have like some experts from UT Law School coming down, A&M, some great stuff. Ours are generally we go through the board of realtors, right? So I'll contact Corpus Christi board of realtors to set up a class so they can blast it out. There's so generally through the board of realtors is where we'll advertise on Texas Farm Credit um, Facebook page. We try to do some of it on there. Probably need to do a better job of that. But
Yeah.
just because we're so spread out,
100%. Yeah. I mean, it's hard whenever you're dealing with like multiple, you know, states and stuff like that. I mean, because like, do you have like one page, one social media page for all of branches, or is it delegated kind of by what area you're in?
We don't. We don't. We've only got one page that I know
Oh,
of.
okay.
It's for the whole association. So that's one thing that Farm Credit I think has struggled with is getting out there and getting the word out. I mean, I was in lending for 16 years. I'd never heard of Farm Credit until I met him at a sporting clay shoot, right?
Yeah.
And I was into country stuff,
Yeah.
So getting the word out's always been kind of a challenge. I think that Farm Credit had outside of the communities.
Well, hey, I mean, look at you. I mean, you're on a podcast now. First time. I'm so excited.
First talking podcast ever. Even if I didn't know him personally, but yeah, no, for sure it is, and it's a great product, right? So great, it's needed. So I appreciate it.
Of course. And so if anybody wants to reach out to you, maybe to get some information, or they want to connect and, find out if this is their dream can actually come true, like what is the best place that they can find you, and what social channels do you have?
So I have Facebook and Instagram, and Twitter personally. Just if they go to any Texas Farm Credit branch, I'm in the Brenham branch, and so they can just call the branch. They can go online and just you know mention something on Facebook, which is not really easy. Actually, I'm kind of hard to find, honestly, which is kind of strange. But unless I'm not really a branch employee, so I'm not on any of the branches. So
Gotcha.
I'm the one. I think Texas Farm Credit does a pretty good job of highlighting our employees.
Mm-hmm.
Right, there are some that don't, but I think that we do a really good job of that. And but I'm falling in the cracks right now, so I'm gonna have to get. I'm gonna not to meet after this. I'm gonna call and get them back on the website. So
So is it just texasfarmcredit.com?
TexasFarmCredit.com or TexasFCS.com are our two websites. Call the Brennan branch or just look us online and track me down.
I love it. Thank you so much for coming on with us. It's been really great.
Yeah, that's been fun. Thanks for having me.
Of course. And so if you have any questions for us, or we can put you in contact with Jeff, you can find us at texastrioteam.com. Thank you so much for tuning in. Take care. Keep living your best life.